Hi, hello everyone. So we are live now for our Bookmarked book club show. This one's so different than our regular Friday shows, so hopefully it will run just as smoothly. But our book of the month for April is the month was Scythe by Neal Shusterman. So we are going to discuss this. We're going to start spoiler free and then we'll get into spoilers a little bit later, but we will let you know when that is going to happen. So Hannah, did you want to summarize the book for us?
Yes, but first, do we want to mention our May book?
Yeah, sure. So our May book, if you guys wanted to join us, is Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. This is the first book, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. I just had a moment.
Just for fun.
Is this? Yeah, we're just going to jump in the middle. No, we are starting with the first book because we all wanted to reread it. So we will have a live show discussing this at the end of May on Hannah's channel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the
I
last
just realized
Sunday
we're reading it
of
on
May.
my channel.
Yeah,
that's
it's perfect.
exciting. Yeah, it's so fitting. Oh, okay. I didn't even realize that. Great.
Amazing. So if you guys wanted to join us for our May pick, then this is it. So you have plenty of time if you haven't read it yet, which would be kind of surprising.
And our book club live shows are always on the last Sunday of the month, except we will be in New York for BEA at the end of May.
Oh,
so
true.
We'll figure it out. But it'll be on a Sunday. Some people were asking in the comments. It's always on a Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So Scythe, to summarize, it's kind of confusing to summarize without like spoiling too much, but generally it's a dystopian world where mortality has kind of doesn't exist anymore. Everyone is basically immortal because the world has like gotten rid of disease and death in general. And so the only way to really die is if you are gleaned, which is essentially killed by somebody called a scythe, because in this world there are people called scythes who have the task of gleaning other people. So they kind of get to choose almost at random who they want to glean. And that's how they control the population of the world. And we follow two main characters who are training as apprentices to become scythes. And that's all I really think you should know if you haven't read the book, because it's really, really fascinating, and anything else like gives too much away.
Yeah, I agree. It's one where you kind of need to go into it like knowing as little as possible. Like just kind of go in.
I knew nothing other than like there were people who killed people. So
yeah, no, same.
Yeah.
See, when I first read it, because I actually reread it, but because I'm so stupid and my memory is terrible, I didn't remember it at all. So this was like my first time reading again. Like literally the plot twist came and I was like, what is happening? It's not like I've read this before. But I think I knew a little bit too much my first time going into it. So having forgotten everything, it was really cool to read it with fresh eyes and be like, oh, cool. So I enjoyed that. But I wanted to go into our ratings. Sorry. What did you guys give the book?
I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's not like one of my favorite books I've ever read, but it's definitely up there in terms of books I really, really love.
I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the concept of it. There was so much thought into like every single bit of the society, and I love books that are set in the future where you can see how we could have gotten to that point. Especially with this, it's like referring back to what we're currently doing and how like with the rate of how much technology is growing and all of that, how we realistically could get to that point, and that just blew my mind. But I heard a lot about plot twists and none of them surprised me. So
I don't know how.
I mean, like we'll talk about it later when we talk about spoilers. But like I like that there were a lot of twists and turns, but I was like, yeah, that's nice. Yeah. But like you both were texting and you're like, oh my gosh, a plot twist. But I mean, I like how much you liked it. It like added to my excitement of the book. But I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I still thought it was really fun and I really want to pick up the next book.
I gave it I'm torn between a 4 and a 4.5 because I had like a couple of issues with it, but I did like really enjoy the story. And I do think like I've read Unwind, which is his other book, and he just like writes really terrifying stories. Like terrifying in the fact that they're kind of a little bit plausible, but it's like an absolute worst nightmare. So it was very interesting going into this one and kind of comparing the two in my mind a little bit. But I think a couple of my issues with the story were, one, I found it was a little bit slow to get into. It took me a little bit to kind of feel attached to the story, I guess. And I guess, like, I'm kind of torn on the other thing, so I'll talk about that in spoilers a little bit more. I feel like that would be getting into that territory. But before, we were talking about some books that this book kind of reminded us of, and we're talking about the difference between utopia and dystopia, and if one exists. And Hannah and I are of the mind that utopia and dystopia are essentially the same thing.
I was just a devil's advocate. This is so rude.
Oh
Oh
God.
my gosh, keep going.
Okay, well.
Okay, we're on two sides of it now, apparently.
Oh, goodness. So utopia is like society at its absolute best. It's the dream. You're basically living in kind of like a dreamscape. It's what you're striving for constantly. So that would be what the world of Scythe is, because like they've eradicated disease, they've eradicated death, like everything is like picture perfect, great, everyone's immortal, all of those things are awesome. So the thing is, once you get to that point, you kind of dive into dystopia, which is society at its absolute worst. So that's why we were all saying utopia and dystopia are the same thing. But this story still makes me think of some different dystopian stories, particularly The Giver. What did you guys think about that?
I definitely agree. I also think that there's no such thing as like, there's no practical utopia. I think it's always the ideal, it's always what you strive towards, but it's never actually going to happen, especially with humanity and us being the way we are with wanting power and corruption and all of that. So I definitely agree. But like, I was comparing this to a lot of the 2014 2012 YA dystopians that were very popular, like Divergent and The Hunger Games, where it was so much more obviously dystopian. It was always a corrupt government that was super apparent. But this is more like everyone thinks that they're doing the right thing, and it's more like underhanded corruption. But like the idea of the world is what we would consider to be a utopian. But I definitely agree it's much more like The Giver in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see the Giver comparisons too. And yeah, with the whole utopia dystopia thing, it's just every single dystopia is a world that thinks it's a utopia, but utopias can't ever even exist because it's just not possible. So it's the concept of every single dystopian, essentially. But I, for some reason, feel like this book really reminds me of An Ember in the Ashes, even though I know that's fantasy and this is dystopian, so it's obviously different. I think I was saying this earlier before we started the live, that something about the stakes of like the world reminds me of that, or maybe like the stakes that we have with like the two apprentices reminds me a little bit of like the dynamic that we have with some of the characters in An Ember in the Ashes. So that's part of the reason I really like this too, because it reminded me of like one of my favorite books. But yeah, I think that compared to, because I'm not a huge dystopian fan, like I don't really read a lot of dystopians anymore, and I don't like very many of them. But I really, really loved this, like surprisingly loved this, because I didn't think I was going to like it that much, but I had a really good time with it. So I enjoyed this very much as a dystopian.
Yeah, I feel like dystopia, as like YA dystopia in particular, after The Hunger Games, after Divergent, it became so oversaturated. So I feel like this is like the first one in a really long time that I've seen find success since the like wave of dystopias that came after Hunger Games and all of that. A couple of people were comparing it to Divergent in the comments, and I do definitely, and I think you mentioned it too, Zoe. But I do definitely see the comparisons between Divergent and it in like certain ways. I feel like they're kind of spoilery, so I don't really want to get into that. But should we dive into spoilers, or should you guys have more to say?
This is
It
better.
definitely is way better.
Definitely better, because I hate Divergent.
It's like, yeah, it's like certain aspects of it, though, I can see
like in the later
comparison.
books, how it all
Yes.
ties together. Yes, I see that.
Yeah.
I
Like,
think
I guess
that
the framework a little bit, but,
yeah.
like, this is way, like, definitely better than Divergent.
This is just more thought out from
Yeah.
different angles, and I think the problem was that after The Hunger Games, they all tried to replicate the formula that like, with the corrupt government, and then the one person who's, like, disenfranchised from the government and, like, blah, 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 has to save the day, the chosen one, all of that, and this is more like they don't want to be in the world. There's no chosen one in this,
Mhm.
and it's all like, they don't have much power in this either, and they just happen to like see things from the outside. So it's a very different formula and it's a very different world, and it's so much more interesting because I can see this actually happening with like the cloud and all of that.
Well, they
Yeah.
called it the cloud. Well, we can get more into this in spoilers, but they called it the cloud, and I was like, "Is this Siri? Is the
Yeah,
Thunderhead
no,
literally
I
Siri?"
think it
Because I'm pretty
is.
sure it is.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, Siri one day will just rule us all. Can you imagine?
Honestly, unless
Gladly.
Alexa
Let's do
beats
it.
Siri.
Yeah, it'll
Woo.
be like a competition between all of them, like Google, Siri, Alexa. I feel like Google's is the smartest because, like, you literally have to say the name of the company every time you need to talk to it.
That's true.
That one is gonna win, in my opinion. My money would be on
Start
Google.
waging your bets now. Let's do
Yeah.
this thing.
Honestly. Did you guys wanna get into spoilers now, or did you have anything else
I
you wanted
think
to
we can
say?
talk about like overall.
Yeah.
We're I don't know. I think this would spoil it. Never mind. Let's
Well,
just head to
I
it.
think well, I think one good thing we can talk about that's got kind of spoiler free is like a little bit about the themes of the book.
Yeah.
Um, because I think one of the reasons I liked this so much was that it covered so many different topics in a way that I feel like a lot of dystopians try to do, but then they focus just so much on like, oh, this world is crazy and like it's
The
we're all
government.
gonna die, the government's trying to kill us, blah blah blah. That it kind of lacks some of the commentary that they that I really like from dystopian, and I felt like this one got pretty actually explicitly like philosophical because a lot of the sides have names of like philosophers or like famous
Yeah.
figures throughout history, and I loved that. I love that a lot, and I want to talk more about it like in specific detail when we get into spoilers because there are certain ones that were named so perfectly. But I really appreciated the way that this book talked about like the world that it had created and what the consequences were
Mhm.
of being immortal, like of
Yeah.
having an immortal world and eradicating disease, what that means for mental health, what it means for physical health, what it means for like disabilities, because they've even eradicated disability. Like it talks about so much stuff that I just found absolutely fascinating and really, 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 really well done. I don't know why I said really so many times.
I agree with you. Add 12 more really for me.
But it's really well done, and I love the discussion that the book had.
For
That
sure.
was the thing that I took away from it the most, is just the fact that, like, you hear in, like, all these vampire novels and stuff that's part of why I like, vampire novels, especially, like, Twilight. They're like, "You don't wanna be immortal, you wanna, like I don't wanna take away your soul because, like, blah, blah, blah." But, like, that's the thing that always I took from, like, vampire novels, and I've always thought about, what would it be like to be immortal? And with this, like, they're not really and, like, the consequences of a utopian society where everybody is taken care of, but that also means that no one is in fear of anything and no one needs to strive towards everything. They're all content and they don't feel any strong emotions. They don't really feel strong love anymore. Some of them don't even care that much about their family. They can do what they like to do. And I think it's so interesting to think about like mental health as well and think that yeah, it'd be nice, like, not to be depressed, like, that would be nice, but also such strong emotions do make you think of, like have more appreciation for, like, the good days, or just makes you think of, like makes you feel more and, like, feel the whole scope of human life.
Yeah, it was such a good commentary on
Yeah,
like humanity. And
For
those are my
sure.
favorite books. Any book that
Yeah.
like talks about humanity in that way. Like if we take away people's saddest moments, if we take away people's pain, literally, which they do in this book, then what does that mean for humanity? Then are we human? And I love when books pose those questions. So that's why I like this so much.
Yeah.
And there's even like fake humans as well. Like, so I wonder if like the next books will talk more about that, like artificial life, because we have the Thunderhead, who's kind of like a god, kind of like I don't they talk a little bit about religion too, and I'm not sure how religious people handled this book, but as someone who's not religious, like but I just thought it was so interesting, and I don't know how they're going to take this novel, like the next novel. I don't know where it's going to go. Also, the fact that you can only die from a scythe, like you can't, like a scythe is the only way, like you can't commit suicide, you can't, there's no accidents or anything. Interesting.
Yeah. I liked the fact that like it, unlike other dystopias, it didn't say that like, oh, it's society, like it's society, like I'm trying to, I guess, government that's going to cause our demise. It's people, like regular everyday people. We are going to be our own demise. So it wasn't putting it on government in those kind of things. It was everyone. So I thought that was really interesting, and once again kind of a commentary on humanity. So that was the most interesting part for me personally.
I definitely agree. It just makes you think more about like everyday life. You're not just in the world of the book, but you're also like, the implications all around us. Like, oh goodness.
And how I was talking about like the age of mortality too, and like looking back at the artwork and everything, like it was just very interesting to consider the fact that, like you were mentioning, Zoe, if those emotions weren't there, like what are you left with, you know? I don't know. I think something that we could talk about too that's not really spoilery is something I mentioned to you guys before, and that is the fact that I opened up the dust jacket to my book, and it actually has a rating in it, which we've talked about age ratings before and how we think they're great, but this one says ages 12 and up. Personally, I feel like 12 is super young for this book. Every 12-year-old is different, obviously, but like I'm thinking from like the perspective of like a parent who's going to get their 12-year-old child a book for like their book report or something. I feel like
if sitting in front of your class and being like, let's discuss this.
So that's where we got to The Giver and talking about that. Is because this is similar to The Giver, but I feel like it's like the very graphic version of The Giver. Like you talk about The Giver, I feel like I read it when I was like 12 or 13 or something like that. I was pretty young, but The Giver isn't that graphic, if I remember correctly. Like not at all, right? It's all like in your head. So it's not really, I don't know. This is just like so graphic. Like I feel like there are multiple trigger warnings that you need to look out for with this book. So it's just, I was like 12.
Yeah. Well, we should talk about some of the triggers. Like there's like suicide is definitely one of them. There's obviously murder and just graphic things up the wazoo, but
just like general violence and gore.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Self-harm too.
Self-harm. Yeah. But I would say suicide is the biggest one.
For sure. Yeah. So just be warned.
Yeah.
Look out for that because it's a very, very dark story.
Yeah.
Like there's like no glimmers of light in it, really.
I mean, I will say I would have 100% read this book as a 12-year-old and loved.
I would have too.
Absolutely loved it. But can I like with good conscience like give this 12-year-old give this book to a 12-year-old that I don't know? Probably not. I wouldn't really recommend it unless you know this like child and you know that they are like very like into this type of thing. You know, just be conscious of it. But
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Did you guys want to get into spoilers now?
Yeah.
I think so.
Excellent. So we'll give you guys a little bit to leave if you have not read this book yet, but don't forget, May, we are reading Clockwork Angel. So you can come back, read that, and go and read Scythe, and then come back and watch our spoiler discussion portion. So you can leave now. I don't know how long I should wait.
I think that's good. I think we love like We'll stay here
Amazing.
for the next half an hour.
Honestly, just being like, hey, spoiler people leave. I don't know what you guys want to start with.
I think we should start with the characters, and first let's just talk about the romance, because this is a very polarizing thing. Okay, Hannah, you start first, because
I have an unpopular opinion.
Yes.
I really like the romance in this book. I thought I wasn't going to like it because I don't like unnecessary romance in like most books. I find them like really, really annoying. And I'm very picky with the romances I like. But I liked this because I like forbidden romance. I like when people are in a competition with one another and don't want to be in a competition with, like, it's literally the night circus and also an ember in the ashes. So how could I not like it? But I liked it because I thought that it was like interesting and I thought it worked with the story, and I didn't feel like it took away from the actual like commentary that the book was making, which I feel like other dystopians that I've read that have romance tend to do that for me. This one I didn't feel that way, but I know a lot of people don't like it, so
I had mixed feelings on it. Like, I didn't hate it. I just felt like it came out of nowhere. Like, I don't know. I feel like so often it wasn't Rowan and Citra together in that way at all. Like, I didn't really see the relationship build up. And maybe I was just kind of glossing over it as I read and wasn't really like paying attention and being like, oh, like that's their relationship developing. Like, obviously I got that they were friends and I got like that platonic love, but all of a sudden it was like at the end, like, I love you. I was like, do you though? Do you really?
Friend love, maybe?
Yeah, like, I was totally fine with that. I would have liked if it was a friendship more, I think. Like, the romance was okay. I don't think it, like, took away, like Hannah said. It wasn't taking away from the main story, but I just was kind of like, I feel like it's just checking a box of, like, a young adult convention, like, these things have romance in it. I guess I am interested to see how it's going to develop in the future books, but I didn't get like romantic feelings from them. I don't know.
It was also the fact that most of this book they were apart from one another.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when they hadn't seen each other for months, they're like, I love you. Oh, same here, buddy. Yeah, woohoo. But like, were they just like really horny and just like kiss like for 2 seconds and then they're like, yeah, love.
They didn't kiss though.
Yeah, they did.
Didn't.
When did they kiss?
No, they didn't. What?
Yeah, they did.
When?
They kissed at like when they kissed. People in the comments, they kissed for like 2 seconds because he's like, oh, I want to kiss her, and then she just like attacked him, and then they're like, okay, now it's out of the way. Yeah, it wasn't like a scene. It was just she just very
yeah. I remember what part you're talking about.
I don't.
People, yeah. it was like 2 sentences, and then they just kiss, and then she's like, okay, now it's in the past. Like I so much.
Oh, was it when they first got to get, like, they first were recruited, I guess?
It was when they were still at Faraday's house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was,
I vaguely remember it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. But, like, I wish it was just, like, it ended there, and then they were more, like, compatriots. Like, they were more platonic. That's what it felt like, actually. That they were just two friends sitting in a hot tub 5 feet apart because they're not gonna be together. But I think most of it was the fact that they were just in this horrible situation together that neither of them wanted to be in. So they felt more like they were like buddies in arms. Like I want to see how it's going to develop in the future. Mm-hmm. I just felt like most of it I didn't see any romantic tension except for the fact that they both, like, he thought she was cute and she was like, oh, I want him to want me, which, I mean, relatable. I get that, Citra. But I mean, it like you guys said, it didn't take away from anything because a lot of this did not focus on their relationship with one another. It focused more on their platonic relationship, that they didn't want to kill each other and that they really supported one another. But they didn't do it because they wanted to be together romantically. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was unnecessary. I think just saying I love you, maybe they were just both thought they were about to die. So maybe it was more of a desperate I love you. We'll see.
Or like a thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Thanks for getting my back.
Love you, buddy.
I don't know. I feel like there's just so often all young adult books have romance. And like, I really enjoy romance. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, oh, like a book with no romance. And then I was like, oh, No. No. So close, yet so far.
I think it was like at first when I heard like you cannot be in a romantic relationship, I'm like, this is just gonna be there to add drama.
Yeah.
But they actually were just like mostly friends, and I appreciated that. If they just started making out left and right, I would not have appreciated that. That would have just been unnecessary drama.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see in the future. I'm
I love the fact
excited.
that Hannah's the one who enjoyed it. Like,
Yeah.
mind blown.
Right?
It's brooding, and it's a dark book, and this is their only beacon of light. And that's
Listen, I love when people can't be together because of all of these reasons, and despite that, they want to be together, and they have to overcome all of these obstacles or pretend to hate each other or like pretend to fight each other. Like when he broke her neck, like that whole scene. Oh my God.
Was so romantic.
It wasn't romantic, but it was so good. It was just so good. And I loved it. I thought it was super entertaining. I wouldn't care if they were also like just friends. I just really like their relationship. So I'm all for it. It was a good time.
Yeah, I agree. Their relationship was very interesting. And them as like singular characters they were both really interesting as well.
Yeah.
I thought Rowan was more interesting. Because he had more arc. He had more character development. Because he started as a sweet, pure boy who was like, "I'm just here because I have no friends."
The only reason he's more interesting is because he went through trauma.
Yes.
That's the only reason. And I agree. I fully agree. That's why he's more interesting in my opinion too. But yeah, it's tragic. Can we talk about the Scythe's names? Because I have so many thoughts about that.
Go ahead.
Okay. The fact that one of them was named Scythe Ayn Rand was incredible. And the fact that she was evil, oh my God, that was so good. I read it. I read that her name was Rand, and I was like, oh my God, I love you, Neal Shusterman. This is the most incredible book ever. I'm done. Like, it's so good. It was so good. Ugh. Yeah, that was my thought. I just needed to express that.
Amazing.
I thought you had more to say. Like,
no, I mean, I loved all of them. Like, I thought it was a really, really cool concept that they chose, like, these names. Like, when it's like early on when you get like the journal entry from like H.S. Curie, and I was like, oh, Curie, like Marie Curie. And then later on you figure out that they are named after like different specific people, and she is Marie Curie. Like, that's the name that she chose. I was like, that's so cool. It's just such a good idea.
It is.
You know
took me so long to figure out. I was like, wait, is this actually Marie Curie? I was so confused. And then I realized. Who's Faraday, though?
Michael Faraday?
I don't know.
Is it was a scientist of some sort?
I feel like there's so many that, like, I don't know. Even Goddard.
Oh,
I don't know Goddard either.
Contributed to the study of electromagnetism and electrochemistry. His main discoveries include the principles underlying electromagnetic induction, diamagnetism, and electrolysis.
Wow.
Who's Goddard?
Electrifying. Thank you.
People are saying Faraday's law in chemistry, and I'm like, do you really think I remember anything?
I failed. Grade 11
very similar. It sounded like in the back of my head somewhere. There's
remembered chemistry. I remembered nothing from chemistry.
Okay.
No.
Chemistry is the one class that I failed. Literally, I failed. Good times.
Okay, so Goddard, Robert Hutchings Goddard, he's from Massachusetts and Maryland. He was an American engineer, professor, physicist, and inventor who is credited with creating and building the world's first liquid-fueled rocket. So it helped with space flight.
Interesting.
I don't know how that has anything to do with his character, though.
I'm really curious. Like, I would love to hear his rationalization for all of
each of their
names. I would love to know.
You know, I love that she chose Anastasia for her name. That was so good. Because when she first said it, I was like, why would you choose? I was like, whatever, Scythe Mandela or whoever it was, who was like, why would you choose Anastasia? You know that like her family like did a lot of terrible things, right? And then her explanation was so good. And I was like, this is so great. And then the fact that Rowan chose Lucifer.
Yes.
Did he choose it, or was it given to him by
he chose it because he's not a real Scythe.
I thought it was just like a rumor, and people started calling him that. I didn't know if he called himself that, but I mean, I hope he did.
Either way, I love that it's Scythe Lucifer. Yeah. That's so great. When you read that like last journal entry at the end or whatever it is, journal entry by Citra, and she says Scythe Lucifer, and I was like, oh my God, this is so good.
Yeah.
So,
I
okay,
agree.
Goddard was Jimmy Neutron's dog's name. That's why I knew it. That's why I knew.
That's who he's named after.
Amazing. Obviously.
Okay, a
Don't
twist
do
that I
that to the
thought was
blog.
going to happen was when we first got Marie Curie's letters at the beginning. I thought that was going to be the one who was chosen as a Scythe. It was like going to be them from the future. Like at the end we would hear like the twist would be that whoever was chosen to be the Scythe would like adopt the name Marie Curie, and then it would all like tie together, and then we met Marie Curie, and I was looking for a lot of like Easter eggs, or like a lavender like robe, and like one of them is gonna say their favorite color is lavender. Like I was really trying to break it down there.
Wow.
But that's good too. I thought Marie Curie was going to turn to be like evil at one point too. Also, my dog is being very
A whiny
right
good
now.
boy.
Sorry.
So good.
We love. Oh God. What did you guys think about the journal entries? Usually I have mixed feelings on like when there's like a thing before a chapter, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like something like that. But I thought it was really interesting.
I usually like those, and I really liked these.
I do too. I love journal entries in books, so this was great for me.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like sometimes when they have like quotes before chapters though, I feel like it slows down my reading, which is totally just a mental thing, but I'm like, this is such a waste of my time. But I thought these were really interesting, and I like the fact that it like changed who is giving, like whose journal entries it was too. I
Mhm.
love like, what did you guys think about the fact that they were made public, all the journal entries?
That is like, oh my gosh, my dog is.
He has a lot to say about it.
He does.
He did
Rascal's
not
like,
like them, obviously. I think that was a really smart idea, but like if I was a Scythe, I would hate that.
yeah.
Like that also shows that like how much of them are they really putting out there, because they know it's going to be public.
Yeah.
So how much, that's also why I thought Marie Curie was going to be evil, and that all of her talk was going to be like fake, and that she was just like saying what she thought people would want to hear, but I turned out to be wrong. But because it's so easy just to lie, like how Rowan was saying too, that he was just writing what he knew that Goddard was wanting to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked the fact that they had like Rowan like read that page out and then deliberately like tear it out and then rewrite what he wanted Goddard to hear. So you know that like obviously some of what they're saying is the truth. And I think Curie's probably pretty honest among at least most of the sides. But yeah, there's definitely some gray area with that, and I think it makes it more I just lost my train of thought. It makes it more interesting, but I was going to say something else and I completely forgot.
Yeah. Emily Whaley in the chat says that it was never explained why they had to make journal entries every day, and that bothered her. They added to the story, but it felt like the only reason the journals were mandated was for the book. What do you guys think about that? Because it really was never explained why they constantly had to keep track. I guess it was just for record, though.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But I mean, they're not like, it's not like a record of who, it's a record of their thoughts more so. Like, do you think they were like keeping track of them to make sure that no one was corrupt? But at the same time, like you guys said, like you're writing what you know other people will want to hear.
I think it was purely for record, because they seem like the Scythehood. Is it called the Scythehood? Is that what they were called? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I started calling them that. I was explaining this book to my sister and I started saying Scythehood. I was like, did I just make that up? Or was that actually in the book? I don't remember. The Scythehood, like they seem like a very they seem like they very much care about their history and they care about their records. Like that's something that's very like significant in their like system and the way that they operate. So to me, it was just like, oh, we have to keep these for our records for like future Scythes, so we know like where we were, what we have done in the past, what people used to think, so we can go back and read the like old Scythes journals and see what they thought when they were gleaning. So to me, it made sense having it in there.
Yeah.
I think, well, didn't they say at the beginning it was to show that they're human and to show
Yeah,
that
that's
what
what
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was at the very beginning. That was the first journal. It was saying we must by law keep a record of the innocents we kill, and it's saying that it's to show that ours is it's just saying that it just to show like the rationalization of why you did the things that you did, and like just to show that you're not betraying the commandments, that you didn't like set out to kill a specific group of people and just to show that you are sad. But then Goddard was just like, yeah, I'm the best, I'm gonna kill everybody. So I don't know why no one really noticed that he was writing these things and was like, probably we should not do this, buddy. But no one actually read well, they said that no one reads the letters, right? No one reads the journal entries.
No,
Yeah, no one
like
actually reads them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like maybe
Like,
they
that's
should
the
start
one.
doing. Well, he's gone now, so it doesn't matter.
Speaking of that, literally, like when I expected it when Rowan killed him, when the tonist was he called a tonist? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Is that who they
A
were killing?
tonist brother.
Yeah. When he was telling him to like kill the tonist, and then like he runs up there and he's about to like stab him, and you think he's gonna stab the tonist, but then he stabs Goddard. I saw it coming, but like it was so satisfying. And the fact that Rowan literally says like, you're right, I do enjoy this. This is the like most enjoyable thing I have ever done. When he stabs him, I was like, oh my god, this is
Then
incredible.
beheads him too.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm reading Game of Thrones. Like that's literally what it felt like.
Oh yeah. I only watched the
Sorry.
first episode, but there was a beheading in there as well.
Yeah.
How much of the Scythehood is corrupt? Because how many of them like have similar ideologies as Goddard?
I mean, he had a decent amount of followers.
Yeah, but how many were just like pretending like, what was his name?
The one who had a daughter?
No, the one who died, who committed suicide.
Volta? Was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how many were just going along with it because they were infatuated with like his charisma and like couldn't get out of it? I'm wondering like, it's probably like 50-50. A lot of people are saying. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
It makes me think of, I can't think of what it is right now, but it makes me think of that one experiment, the prison experiment.
The Stanford prison experiment?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. And they did that after to like figure out why so many people, this is like a really stretch, like, I guess it's not that, it's kind of a stretch, but like, why so many people became Nazis and like followed Hitler.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me think of that, because it's like that, you know, powerful orator and all of that, like you just kind of become brainwashed and follow it. So yeah, I think like why, you know, but I thought it was interesting to think of that. I don't know. There's just so many social commentaries in this book.
Yeah, for sure. I think just inherently, I mean, Curie talks about this a lot, like in her journals too. Inherently, being a Scythe gives people an immense amount of power. And there's a good portion of people who, when given that type of power, are not going to handle it responsibly, and it's going to go to their head, and they're going to end up like Goddard. So I think when someone gives you that much power over literally life and death,
You're like, yeah, you don't follow any laws.
Exactly. Like you're only beholden to 10 commandments, and they're not that strict, to be honest. So
No.
it's expected that a lot of people are going to end up having that go to their head. So
Jen's bookshelf says, honestly, what freaked me out the most was Goddard's philosophies. Some of them had grounds and were rational and believable, which I think is what made him the most terrifying. And I agreed too, like the fact that he did not, like he stuck to the rules. He only killed like up to his quota, but he did it in such a horrific way. But like you could see that it still was random. I mean, not at the very end when he like went to the actual like cult, but like he just did like a plane, because like obviously there were plane crashes back in the day, and it kind of reflected how Faraday would go with like the statistics, and statistically there would have been plane crashes, so that could have been like a similar thought. But wowie.
This is kind of switching gears here, but what did you guys think about the Faraday and Curie romance?
I think that could have been the only romance in the book, and I would have been okay. Like I thought, like if there had to be something, the reason why he brought up the fact that Scythe like couldn't be romantically involved, like it could have just stuck to that, which again was like unnecessary. And like that's also like I thought she was evil, and then that was the explanation, was that they just like banged back in the day. Like I don't care.
Oh, so many people have mixed opinions in the comments too. I kind of liked it. I don't know. It didn't bug me. I thought it was interesting and I didn't see it coming. And I was like, oh, like, and I feel like it made Faraday more human because I think he, like, obviously he was human, but like at the same time, he was so like by the book, I guess, that it was hard to remember that he had so much humanity to him. So it's kind of like, oh, like, I don't know. I liked it.
I thought it was gonna be more him and the coroner lady because they had more chemistry. Because we saw them together and it was like chemistry and like, oh, I'll bake for you, blue, doo, doo, doo. And then him and Curie, like I guess it was done by that point, so it was like the leftovers of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mind it. Like I didn't hate it, but it was also like I was expecting other things.
Everything goes back
and in love.
Everything goes back to the fact that Zoe thought that Curie was evil.
Oh my god.
I didn't really care. I didn't really care that much for it. When we found out about that torn out journal page and the Scythes were trying to blame it on were they called a clave or a conclave? I'm mixing up Shadowhunters and this right now. So was it called a conclave? Yeah, they're conclave. When they were like saying like, oh, we've been investigating you. We found this torn out page saying that like he was saying that you were coming into his room and like he thought that you were going to kill him. I knew that it was going to be Curie. Like I figured it out instantly when it said she. I was like, oh, it's Curie.
So like other like female character.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. So I saw it coming, but I wasn't like.
So the romance coming? Or
yeah.
You just
no.
that just
because I didn't think she was evil. So I was like, okay, she wasn't trying to kill. Because when they read that letter and they were like, oh, like last night I caught her trying to come into my room. I was like, that's not trying to kill you. That's not what's going on there.
It could have been both though.
I mean, I guess, but that's not what's going on. And yeah, so it was like obvious to me. But then I don't know. I just found it kind of like unnecessary. The thing I did like about it though was when she was explaining what happened afterwards, how like they didn't see each other for a while, then they dated for like 7 years, and then they the conclave found out about it, and then they were forbidden from seeing each other for 70 years. And I was like, that's so wild. Like because I feel like it just adds another like layer to the immortality thing, because if you think about it, like their relationships are so different than mortal relationships, because you can have like as many like
grandma going and getting a robot husband.
Yeah, exactly. But like you can be in a relationship with someone for 70 years and then maybe you guys get bored of each other, and then like 5 years later you find somebody else, and then like you guys are together for like 80 years or whatever. So it was just like interesting to think about it from that perspective, because for them 70 years is like not really that long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess because she's only like 200 something years old, but still it's not that long. She can live to be thousands of years old. So
it's just so interesting, like the fact that they have such long lives and how everything from like family dynamics to like learning different things, the fact that she's fluent in different languages. I'm like, yeah, that's things that like people would do, but other people like they procrastinate for their entire lives. I'm like, that wouldn't be me.
Listen, I could never be immortal, because I would put off absolutely everything until the end of my life, which would never come. So I'd still put it off forever. Like,
yep.
No,
but those
thank
are like
you.
the two different the polar opposites of people who actually like learn a bunch of things, because that's what they thought people were going to do with like immortal life. They thought they were going to be like the Renaissance, like they were all going to learn so much, but it just turned out everybody procrastinated everything. And the fact they all are like, oh yeah, I'm going to be 20 and hot for the rest of my life. Like, I get
it. In the chat, sorry, I just lost it, but so someone said, where is it? Malia said, can we talk about the fact that people, when they call dead people deadish? I love that so much too.
Yeah.
Like it's so funny to me.
Yeah.
When I like don't feel well, I'm just gonna be like, I feel deadish today.
Yeah.
Honestly. Oh yeah, Maya Rose says I laughed out loud when one of the characters said "Go glean yourself," or when one of the characters after Rowan like snapped her neck and was like, "Oh, like why don't you come to my room and snap my neck?"
I know. It's like, whoa!
Oh my god!
Oh, goodness. What did you guys I feel like the one thing that I wish I would know more about, and, like, I feel like we are going to learn more about in the next book, but it's the Thunderhead. Obviously, I say that I feel like we're gonna learn more about it in the next book because it's called
Called
Thunderhead,
Thunderhead.
Yeah.
but, like, I was like, "Oh, it's not really a part of the story at all," and then all of a sudden it was, and I was like, "Oh," and then I had a lot of questions, and now I just want a lot of answers.
You wanna hear another twist I had in mind? Was the fact that I thought, like, Citra or Ronan were going to be, like, robot people. Like, when I thought, like, one of them was gonna get their neck snapped. No, because then, like, he reached out, like, the Thunderhead reached out to her, I'm like, "What if she's the daughter of the Thunderhead?"
Of a computer?
Yeah! I thought, like, she was gonna turn, like, I don't know, like, when, like, I don't know, but then I'm like, "Oh, no, she already had her neck snap, like, she's obviously mortal," but I'm like but in that moment, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what if the" because we got, like, robot people at the very beginning, and we never heard about them again. We got the fact that the grandma had a robot husband, and we never heard about it again, so I thought it was gonna be one of those things that it comes up later. I'm like, "Oh, she actually turned out to be a robot." I don't know, I really want
Oh my god, we are such different readers.
My
it would have been a great book if my things came true.
You're like, maybe this, like, you have this whole, like, board where you're like, "I'm a Ravenclaw."
She's
so,
literally that like one
write
image.
it.
Yeah,
Oh,
that one
yeah.
like reaction image where the guy's like going like this.
Yeah, that's literally her. I'm just like, everything, I'm like, "Oh my god," and literally, this was my second time reading it. I'm, like, shocked. I'm
This
like,
is
"Oh my
this is why I
god."
wasn't shocked with the twist that happened. I just came up with much weirder twists. But I
Oh.
love the fact that the Thunderhead, at this point at least, is not evil. Like, it's actually just, like, the only pure, like, moral thing in the entire world at this point. So I like, because we all obviously have these conspiracy theories where Alexa's, like, listening to everything that we're doing right now. Like, Siri is
She is.
recording this right now and sending it to the FBI, and I'm gonna die in the next 2 seconds. But
Excited.
the
No, that sounded really bad. I'm not excited like that. Oh my god.
but I thought it was so interesting that it's
Yeah.
actually trying to help, and I don't know if it's going to be one of those things where, like, now we trust it, and it's going to turn around and be, like, the ultimate enemy, and then they're going to
See,
be
I
in
don't
between
trust
the
it
2.
at all.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I think it's I feel fake trust right now. I'm very wary.
Yeah,
It's something's gonna happen.
I don't trust it. My theory, because I am kind of like Zoe in that like while I'm reading anything that's like suspenseful or mysterious, I do like try and like come up with theories and predict stuff. I don't do as many as you, and they're not like as out there. That's why like I have a hard time with thrillers and stuff. But what I thought when Rowan snapped her neck and she was deadish that first time. I thought that the voice that was talking to her was Faraday. I texted Hailey this. I was like, he snapped her neck and now she's talking to someone and I'm 100% sure it's Faraday. And it wasn't Faraday, but I knew that he wasn't dead. Like I could tell. So that
was
wasn't
the Thunderhead
shocking.
in her, like, she was rebooting at that point. I honestly I was like, she's a robot. She's rebooting.
Oh my
This
god.
Falcon, she's gonna rise from the dead, like with like her neck like actually like backwards and just like I'm here. But that's not what happened. Yeah. She's gonna turn around and be like, I'm a robot, as it turns out.
Oh
But
my god. You reading Harry Potter. They're robots. You reading Twilight. They're robots. Amazing.
it's the new It's All a Dream. They're robots.
Honestly. Oh, I love it. Georgia in the chat said, "Can we talk about how there is still kind of a foster care system with the Thunderhead?" I thought that
Yeah.
was really interesting
Mhm.
because, like, we don't know that much about the Thunderhead yet, right? So, like, the Thunderhead essentially could have, like, this army of its foster children.
Turn those all
That's
into
me
androids.
theorizing.
Whoa, they can
Yeah, you never know.
I think
You
Tiger's
really
gonna come
don't.
back and be evil or something.
Yeah.
Like
I think that too.
he was like weirdly placed in this book just to be
Yeah.
like, oh, he's still here. And he's like really yeah, he's gonna be evil. He's gonna be a robot this whole time. And that's why he's splatting he's splatted so many times. Each time they put a little bit of like metal in him, and now he's just like RoboCop.
Oh, dear.
Oh my gosh, Risa just said, feel like Zoe read a completely different book. You know what? You're not wrong. I honestly, like, when I got to the end of the book, I texted them. I'm like, wait, what was the plot twist? Because they all were texting me like, oh my gosh, just got to the plot twist. And yeah, it's because I had these stupid things.
Oh god. And we were
Oh.
both shocked. Like,
Yeah.
I still thought it was a cool
Faraday.
twist. Like I still like I didn't foresee that because I foresaw wrong things.
Yes.
So it was still like a twist. And I liked how this kind of felt like this was only 430 pages, but so much happened in this book.
Yeah.
It wasn't them
Mhm.
just learning the craft of killing and then going out and killing people. Like she went to we learned about how the size, like the different systems all around the world. I thought that was because it's usually like the second book in the trilogy. You'll expand your scope from like the small neighborhood or the small country or whatever that this all takes place in, and then you'll see how the entire world is affected by this dystopian. But I liked how so much happened and it kept things interesting. It didn't feel stagnant at any point.
Yeah, that's very true. It was just so wild. Like, I can't imagine living where you're immortal, but at the same time, and I guess this is me as a type 6. I'm like, can you imagine, like, someone could show up at your door any day and kill you, which I guess could also happen right now, but, like, it's much less likely to happen.
They say it's an only 1% chance, but, like, I guess we were reading from the perspective of the size, so it seemed like everyone was just dying left and right,
Yeah.
but I guess, like, people are already 200 years old and
That's true because, I think it was Rowan who said, like, I've only known, like, someone who knows
third
someone who
degree,
knows
yeah.
Yeah, it was
someone
to the
who
third degree.
was gleaned. And I'm like, I would be like every day, like I would be one of those people who like they'd be walking around in their robes and I'd be like, can I do anything for you? Do you need like a foot massage? Do
Oh
you
my
need
God.
any of this? Like that would 1000% be me because I would be terrified. Like if they got on the plane scene to me was really chilling. I think that was obviously
That
there were
was the
so many, but like,
worst.
yeah, because planes are terrifying. So
Yeah.
like,
But they said how it was like so safe by this point, and like it was all like basically automated. Like there are no accidents with like
Yeah.
car accidents or anything. But then you think that you're completely safe, and
Yeah.
then you're
and
not.
I'd be like,
Well, the worst part of that whole scene is the way that they described how everything about like traveling with a plane now is so easy. It's so comfortable. It's so
There's
nice.
no
I was
middle
like, wow.
seat.
I
Yeah.
was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I wanted to be on a plane in this world. And then all of a sudden they all die. And I was like, great, thanks.
Yep.
That really helps with my flight anxiety.
Even the people who like
Right?
run away, and then they're like, "We have the manifest. We'll find them." I'm like,
I can't. Yeah, no.
okay. Oh, I like this. Where did it go? From Alicia Gonzalez. Thoughts on how the size decide to glean people. There are so many different ways that
Yeah.
people I really like how Faraday did it with the statistics. Like, and it was totally like he didn't have any emotion in the equation. He's just like, okay, so like with Cole, how he is a drinker and he just got a new car and he's a teenager and he has to kill like what one person out of every 333 people has to be in that demographic, and I really like that. But also the way that Marie Curie did it with like seeing people who were basically depressed, like who they had no more reason to keep on going even if they didn't know it themselves. But I feel like that would be, how would you know? How would you?
I feel like morally that's a little bit questionable.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about the science is morally questionable.
Yeah.
But the way that Faraday does it, in my opinion, is the most objectively just because he's literally like randomly choosing people,
Yeah.
which is kind of what it's supposed to be. And Curie's kind of doing the same thing, except she's like, well, she's placing a judgment on people herself. So that's a little bit more, it's a lot more subjective. So yeah, I wouldn't probably go with her method. If I had to do this, I'd probably take Faraday's method so that I could take the emotion out of it. But I would never want to be a side ever at all.
No. That means you'd be a good one. We'd all be great ones. What would our colors
Great. That
be?
means we all have to be sides.
Yeah.
No.
But like
not.
I don't know why people, oh gosh, just like the different ways you can kill people. And
Yeah.
it's just like, I would just do like that one pill or whatever that you just bite into and it's like instant death. I
Mhm.
would do like the same thing where it'd be like the same way to kill someone every single time. I like how Faraday explained it. Like he's looking at them more as an individual and all of his ways are pretty instantaneous.
Mhm.
But I was just like, you have to take all the emotion out of it.
The
I just
one
think
the
it's so interesting. There's so many different things to think about, like how you would approach everything in this book.
The one thing I did like about Curie's method, though, was that she said she never gleaned children. And I
Mhm.
appreciated that a lot because same. I would never glean children. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
But also the way that they're like, how do you know if someone's just having a bad day? And she's like, I don't know. Like, imagine like accidentally waking up late one morning and like running out without brushing your hair. And then she comes up, she's like, you look like you're going through something right now. Let me kill you.
Yeah. I don't know. All the scenes with Goddard though, like for the plane one sticks out in particular, but also someone mentioned the food court one and I forgot about that one. Like I feel like all of
And the
them I just want
harvest
to block
festival,
out of my mind.
setting the corn maze on fire and then
Yeah,
gassing it.
it was just ugh, I don't like thinking about it. It just freaks me
It's just
out.
that
But
that's
like,
so applicable to like the mass shootings and stuff we have
well,
now.
that's
Yeah.
exactly it. Like, it's so as terrible as it sounds, like it's plausible. You know? It's oh my God. It's absolutely
Well,
horrible.
the thing that I not liked about that, the thing that I liked about the differences that you can see in the Scythes, and the reason I liked Faraday's method so much more was his was like we talked about, like just statistical, statistically like speaking, but also everything that he did, and for the most part, like kind of Curie's method too, a little bit, was everything was based on like an accident or something that like could have happened. Like this person has done heroic acts, so they could have potentially died from trying to do something heroic, so we're going to kill them. And if you compare that to Goddard's methods, his is literally just pure massacre. That's not something that naturally happens like to human beings.
I mean, there are natural massacres, but like that's.
But there aren't natural massacres though, because
no, I mean like we have them now. Like we have massacres. He's just recreating massacres.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like the difference is like with the other sides, like at least the good ones that we see, they're like recreating natural death versus Goddard is recreating like just pure violence and murder. That's like the difference that I see in them. And that's why he's so terrifying, because he doesn't even understand that like this is
and he still doesn't go over the death quota. That's the thing. It's just like you can't
that's exactly
him on anything.
He bends the rules to suit him. So like it's just so terrifying. But what do you guys think about Esme?
Is she gonna be important anymore in this?
I don't know.
It's very anticlimactic. It's just like she was.
I thought she was going to be some. I thought she was going to be some sort of chosen one thing. Yeah. Like it was going to be some huge deal, and they were like, "Oh, she's just some illegitimate kid that Goddard's like using to blackmail this guy." So.
But what happens to her now? Like, is she following
Rowan
around?
She has to come into it more.
Yeah.
No, he took her back to her mom.
But still, I mean, like in the. I feel like she still has to come into it.
I don't think she's going to come in.
So much.
Mm-hmm.
That kid is going to be very messed up. She has seen some shit.
That's true.
Like, she has a tragic backstory. Mm-hmm. I think she needs to come up again, and I will be very like, if she doesn't.
Andrea and Maya Rose both thought that Rowan was going to have to kill Esme, and I thought that would be so much more important. Like, I mean, I don't think that what's his face, the head dude, would have allowed that. Like, he would have been like, oh no, maybe he's the one who chose them specifically so he wouldn't have to choose Esme. But he didn't care about his mom, so he didn't care about anyone, though, to be honest. He should have shot Tiger. He already died 17 times.
What did you guys think about the final test, I guess?
Oh, broke my heart.
Right?
Absolutely broke my heart in two ways. One, because of the entire scene with Citra. It was just awful, so painful. And then when she hears how Rowan did it, And like the fact that Rowan even talks about how like the fact that I killed her like so easily and didn't even think twice about it terrifies me, or whatever he said. It was so sad. All of it was so sad. I would have literally been like, whoever it was, one of the like apprentices, they had to just walked out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that it's not like actual death, but I wouldn't be able to do it.
Still,
like your little brother.
Yeah.
Like then for the rest of his life, because they're also immortal now too, because they can't be killed. So, but I think that's why so many. That's another way to break your bond with like the rest of the world, is the last people you have in your life is your family, and even though they're going to live forever, they're never going to forgive you. So that's another way of making them detached.
Yeah.
But it's just, as someone with like a little brother who I love so much, and I could not.
No, like that's absolutely terrifying. Everything about being a Scythe, like, you have to like completely detach from reality and basically become like this omniscient character who, I mean, obviously it's not surprising that there's people like Goddard who were like, oh, like I have all this power now, I can decide who dies and when and how many people and all of those things. And there's rules governing it, but as we saw, like they're really easy to bend. So like just that godlike power and the corruption that comes with it wasn't surprising, but it's still totally terrifying.
The fact that they said like all religion was gone, but now they're basically like the new gods or some sort, and they actually have had like cults around them, but then it's you know what, I was surprised that they didn't have, I guess there would be no plot if this was to come, but when they set up the Scythe Dome, if that's what it,
Scythe Dome is what it is.
Why they didn't like come up with parameters of who they would kill, like why everybody can have like a free-for-all, like there would be no plot if there wasn't Goddard who was like going crazy. But that was just like a big,
well, I think that if they had come up with parameters for who they could kill, that would be a problem. Like that would be worse,
I guess,
because
but
then
if they just followed like Faraday's way though, if they just did it like completely
I mean there are some rules, because like if like they see that a side is killing like too many people in one group, then that's a problem. Like they call them out on it and they prevent them from continuing to do that. So they do kind of have like those guidelines, but I think if they set rules for it, that would like lead to more problems, because then they're like initially making judgments about who has the right to live and who has the right to die. If you give like however many 200, 300 sides that there are that they said, how many is it? I don't remember.
I don't know.
I think they said it was a few hundred.
Yeah.
Sides. Yeah, in the world, or maybe just in Mid-America or wherever they are. If you give that many people like free choice essentially on who to kill, then you're gonna have a more, I think, in my opinion at least, more just like, it'll be more just, it'll be more fair, because then it's far more random than if you have like guidelines for who you're allowed to kill. Because that lets you discriminate like really easily.
Yeah.
I was thinking with statistics to be no emotion, but that makes sense too. I don't know. I'm just mad.
Yeah. I think it makes me think a little bit of utilitarianism, which is kind of something that I'm not going to spoil. I haven't even seen the most recent movie, but like Avengers deals with that a little bit. It's like the greatest good for the greatest number of people is that concept. And it's one of those like philosophical issues that like, or I guess ethical and moral issues where like there's no right answer to it. And it kind of, I don't know. It's just, it makes you think about things that you don't want to think about.
Yeah.
But like in the best way, but you're still like
you're thinking how you would murder people, and you're thinking like all of these things, and I was so uncomfortable, but it was
No, I was sitting there and I was like, wait, how would I glean people if I had to glean people? And I was like, wait, I'm thinking about how I would kill people. This isn't a good thing. So it makes you ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. And like the fact that like you get mad at someone and you push them in front of a truck, and it's just like, oh, they'll be back in a couple of days. It's fine.
I completely forgot about that. Like
like the desensitization to things that absolutely terrify us on a daily basis is so much. Honestly, this book, like I really enjoyed it, but it's my type 6 nightmare.
I think that like the plot of this was good, but like the best part about it was just thinking about it, like thinking about living in that world and just like the thought that went into it, and just the fact that we can have this discussion
Yeah.
about it with how it's like the lasting. Oh
This is
goodness.
why it's good
Yeah.
dystopian. This is what dystopian
Yes.
should
Sure,
make
yeah.
you do.
It's not like
Yeah.
Divergent, like, which faction would you be in? Like,
Well, because like those dystopians are all trying to make not even make commentary, but replicate another dystopian. But successful dystopia makes commentary on today's society and what we could become.
mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's why like Hunger Games worked. But Divergent was just trying to do what Hunger Games did. So it was more so trying to replicate another dystopia and kind of make commentary on it. So it
It
just
was
didn't
Hunger
work.
Games and Hogwarts because it was the Sorting Hat
Yeah.
on the Hunger Games.
Classic. I never put that together, but that's so true.
That's what it is.
Amazing. Did you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap up? Or
I'm really excited to read the next book.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm ready for Citra to be the Thunderhead's daughter.
oh my god.
I downloaded the audiobook immediately after I finished the first one. And I was like, I can't read this right now. I have to wait until after the live show because if I read it right now, I'm going to mix up what happens in this one with the last book and I'm going to spoil something. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to read it.
I think this is a
Ooh.
fun question, actually. I feel like we're looking at the same thing. Is it what name would you pick?
Yeah, what
I
name would
don't know.
I know, right?
I'd probably be like Jane Austen or something. That's the only one I can think of.
Died Austen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I have to give
the
it.
Goodall one for Jane Goodall. That was
That
I
one
know,
was-
I was gonna
yeah, that
say
was
Jane
so good.
Goodall. That's who
So
I was
cute.
thinking of. Oh, there's so many options, though.
Oh, I'd want to do one that sounds like real scary.
Can I be Michelle Obama? I just be like, oh, there's so many options, honestly.
Yeah,
So
I'd
many
have to
good
give it like a
options.
lot of thought.
Right? Because that's such a big decision.
Yeah, it's a really big decision.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
But
gosh.
it's still, I think that's a really fun question to think about.
No, it really is. I'm going to think about it. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll tweet what my
Perfect.
name would be later.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There's just so many implications to it. Someone said Cardi B.
I like that.
Oh, nailed it, Maya Rose.
Uh,
Great one. Oh dear. All right. Well, I think that's all right.
mhm.
Mhm.
Excellent. So we are probably all gonna go and read Thunderhead now.
I have to after the Owls readathon. Then I can.
Oh, then you're gonna
Because
do
Thunderhead
it.
doesn't fit in any of them. This one
Oh.
fit for divination because it's set in the future. FYI,
Okay.
if you're watching this right now and haven't read the book and are doing the readathon, those 0 people right now who fit those
Well,
parameters.
You've been spoiled for the whole thing. Amazing. Oh dear. All right. Well, don't forget to pick up our May book, which is Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, the first book of the Infernal Devices. We are going to have our live show.
Cassandra Clare books. People were asking you can read it without having read any of the other Shadowhunter books.
I don't know like anything, so thanks. I haven't read a Cassandra Clare book since like I think City of Heavenly Fire. It's been a long time. So this will be exciting and fun.
So it's all good.
Excellent. Well, we are going to be reading this in May, so please join us. We are going to have our live show sometime. We're not really sure because we're all going to be in New York for Book Expo and BookCon at the end of May. So we are going to be doing it, I don't know when, but it will be on Hannah's channel. So stay tuned for more information for that. We have our Twitter and our Instagram down below, and we'll be talking about it more there. But yeah, I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for joining us to discuss Scythe. It's always fun to discuss books with you guys. And I hope you all enjoyed it. We obviously did a lot, and I hope it doesn't give you nightmares because I think it's gonna give me nightmares.
Yeah. There we go.
Woo! Gonna be great. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you on Friday on my channel again. It's on my channel again, right? Yeah. I don't know what we're talking about yet, but we will be live on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my channel for a regular weekly live show. So see you then. Bye.
Bye.